When you see the whole world shaking and you feel your heart is breaking, take my hand, no hesitating. When you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains to how we can climb it. Fearless, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains to how we can climb it. Fearless, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Good evening. It's Saturday night. We're live. It's actually 7:06. I had a little difficulty with the software. I was about 3 minutes late going on. We went on about 7:03. But I am Chris Schedule, associate broker for eXp Realty, and this is real estate with MrG.com. Okay. So it is July 23rd. It's actually my sister's birthday. So, Ricky, are you out there watching? Happy birthday. I spoke to you earlier today. She lives in England. And happy birthday to Sis. So, hot day today. I did go into the pool, worked on my cardiovascular, and I put on enough sunscreen so I wouldn't burn, but I got a little sun. Well, tan. I'm okay. I'm okay. I've been protecting myself, but still, that sun is hot. Got to make sure you stay hydrated. Drink plenty of fluids. Non-alcohol fluids would be best. And if you're not at a pool or a beach, if you're outside, be careful. Try to stay in the shade if that's possible. And again, drink plenty of water, okay? So we have lots to talk about. One of the big issues today will be the inflation we are experiencing, and it might be detrimental to the real estate industry. I actually made my preview video kind of dramatic. It's not really that bad. I just, want to try to capture as many watchers as possible. So you got to do these things to get people to watch, I guess. So it's going to look dramatic, but the outlook doesn't really look that bad right now. But we'll talk about it more. So let me do my preview. and I created that. I love doing that type of stuff. By the way, I was a music major undergrad, and music is always on my mind. It accompanies my life, so I try to match up the music as much as possible to the scenes, and I have lots of fun doing it. I really enjoy that. But that's my video, and so let's talk about what's going on. And we know that inflation is up. In my area, though, we have seen gas prices go down. Right now, they're below $4, and that's pretty good. It's around $3.97, $3.99. I'm a member of BJ's, so and I have their BJ's MasterCard, so I get 10% below that. Or if you shop at Harris Teeter or Kroger's, and these are nice little tips here. You build up fuel points. The most I've gotten off a gallon is about 30 cents. My daughter, who has a couple kids, she sometimes gets up to $1 off. Of course, the more groceries you buy, the more fuel points you add on. So these are ways to save money in these times. But I was surprised that it went under 4. I thought it was going to go over 5, and all the it's like my preview I just had right now is very dramatic, and the news has to make everything very dramatic. And of course, there was reports that it was going to go over $5 a gallon, and knock on wood, it hasn't. If it may or may not in the future, I don't know. But right now, it's getting to be more comfortable. But I know, for instance, the daughter who I talked about had the high fuel points. Right now, she's living with her husband and children out in San Diego, and the fuel prices are very high here. Okay? So it depends where you are, but I'm assuming, even from the high point that it was in San Diego, that it's coming down. So that's a good thing. But as I talked about last week, I do the majority of the food shopping in our family because I enjoy food, and I get the fun stuff as opposed to my wife getting the essentials. But when I go, I get the, and which I shouldn't with some things, the cakes and the cookies and stuff like that. But I definitely have seen an increase in grocery prices, and that's tough. I mean, through my wife, I learned how to look for sales and look through coupons and buy what's on sale. There are certain foods that you're not loyal to the brand. So, like for instance, I only could have Thomas English muffins. So when they're not on sale, I won't buy them. But every 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, they'll go on like 2 packs for $6. And when they're not on sale, they're like $4.39 for 1 pack. But there are other muffins you could buy out there, and they're a lot cheaper, right? Even frozen muffins. But that's something I'm loyal to. But there are some products that you could go back and forth to see what's on sale. Okay, so that's how I deal with inflation when it comes to groceries. We're blessed because we're in the area where we have a lot of individual grocers. So we have the Kroger's and the Harris Teeter and the Food Lions. Then we'll have, and I always say the word wrong, I say Lidl, and my wife said it's Lidl, and we have Aldi, and we have, it's not so much left now, Save-A-Lot. We used to have a Save-A-Lot that closed down. But what I'm saying is that we have more places to purchase and compare prices where we could get maybe certain meats cheaper, so you could sell on meat, on salmon. We're lucky to live in an area where we have all these options, but there's some parts of America, where you just have one store that services the whole community, and you just have to deal with their prices. That you can't be a comparative shopper there. But here we are lucky, and it works if you really um, look at the. Well, actually, there's not that many flyers right now. You have to go online to look at it. So if you go online and you look at what Harris Teeter is doing, and then what Food Line is doing, and what Kroger's is doing, and what Aldi is doing, and what Lidl is doing, and you usually could find some good sales on different items. All right. Well, let's talk about housing, okay, and not about food. Let's talk about housing. And we know that home prices are still rising. And of course, it's not at the fierce pace it was, let's say, from 220 to 221, where they went up about 18% on average. Now they're creeping up about 4 or 5%. And each year afterwards, we're not seeing a gigantic push up in home prices, but they're still going up. Okay. And thank God it's not going up that much. This was a lot. And of course, sellers, they did great in this market. But the buyers who, maybe they just got approved, they're first time home buyers, and they got approved for this much, let's say 200,000, but that house now is worth, on the market, a house, let's say it was 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, maybe about 1,600 square feet, and was 200,000 when they were first being approved, and began looking around, and those prices went up. And after a while, they are no longer eligible for the house. So if 2,000 is their top, and it goes up to 220 or even higher, they are knocked out of the ballpark for that. Now, they can still go for it if they have the money to make up the difference, right? Because the bank is only going to loan you the amount of money that the house is appraised at. So even though the house is on the market for 240,000, but the appraiser goes in and says it's 200,000, well, then that's the amount that the bank will lend you, and you have to make up the difference. All right. And some people do have the difference, and some people don't. All right. But the ones who don't, who just starting out in their careers, just starting out with bringing in some good money, their first time. And by the way, it's not just first time home buyers. Look at people who they're on that second round that they want to move up to another house, or they went through a divorce, or they're being deployed to another part of the country, or being transferred to another part of the country. So there's a lot of issues involved. So with the recent market, which is a very, very strong seller market, and there still is a seller market, the ones who really benefit were the sellers, but the buyers got kind of hurt, especially if they didn't have extra cash. So let's go to our PDF file for today. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to knock out the caption so we have more room on the screen. And remember how I like making myself that nice little bubble? And let's just do it. Let's see. I like that little. Now that's a big bubble of me. I don't want the big bubble. Oh, here I am. That's that little bubble. Okay. And I take a sip of water. So should you buy a home with inflation this high? Now, I see well, the home prices are high, and they were beginning to get higher prior to the onset of the war in Ukraine. So I see the high prices of homes to be more pandemic related than anything else. Okay, we have high prices in groceries. We have high prices in building materials for many different reasons, and it gets complicated. All right. For instance, beef that's fed on grain. Actually, we don't really get grain from the Ukraine, but that also, no matter what, on the commodities market, that price goes up. So whoever is buying more bushels of grain, whether it's coming from another country, bushels of wheat, that price goes up. Okay, so to feed our cattle, that will increase the price of meat. When we had problems, I think we still have problems with the lines of travel of goods when they're being sent from different parts of the country. With lines of distribution, we still have issues with that. I believe the issues with the ships being out in the cities like outside of San Diego or Los Angeles, and they're finally getting those products off the ships and sent to the stores, whether it's a Walmart, whether it's Target. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Target is having many good sales, because now they have all these products that were held up for a few months, and I guess maybe the buyers got tired of waiting, and now they have them in the store. So there's some situation, there's lots of inventory, and maybe not enough buyers. So Target, for example, is cutting back on a lot of their prices. Okay, but the high cost of homes is basically caused by the pandemic and less people putting their homes on the market during the pandemic because they didn't want people walking through if they were still occupying it, right? They were afraid that this, more, if an agent has an open house and 20 people come, some of them may have the COVID-19 and the spread. So a lot of homes were not put on the market. And we kind of went to a standstill, all right, when it came to inventory. We are seeing more inventory going on the market, but still it's not at the amount that we needed. We need more. And I guess till now people are waiting to see whether or not we're going to go into a full-blown recession mixed with inflation, and that's not a good thing. If you have a lot of people out of work and you have high prices. But let's scroll down on this here, on my PDF file here. So it says the latest data shows the inflation rate is still going up. You are no doubt feeling that pinch on your wallet at the gas pump or the grocery store. But as we just discussed, we see gas prices going down. But that leaves you wondering, should I buy a home now? So this is what George McBride, the chief financial analyst at Bankrate, explains. Inflation will have a strong influence on where mortgage rates go in the months ahead. Whenever inflation finally starts to ease, so will mortgage rates. But even then, home prices are subject to demand and a very tight supply. So what happens is that the Federal Reserve raises the Fed funds rate. And again, that's the amount that the Fed funds will charge to banks when they borrow money from the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is not directly affecting the mortgage industry or the mortgage rates. It's sort of indirectly. So, in a way to ease the runaway inflation, because right now, it's funny where we talk about the recession, but there's still a lot of people who are at work, who have found some sort of employment, and they're buying things. They spent a year and a half, maybe 2 years in their house. They bought a lot of stuff through Amazon, but they're going out and they're buying things and they're going on vacation. So money's being spent, but it's not being saved. But again, as we buy more and more and more, okay, that wheels of commerce begins to move, and companies, for example, let's give the example of big screen TVs. They say, well, now we have to produce more TVs. But in order to do that, we have to hire more people. We have to buy more supplies. We might buy another plant to house more people to build the big screen TVs. And all of this causes the price of the item to go up, right? Because now these manufacturers have more cost involved. So in order to curtail all of that, the Federal Reserve said, well, if you're going to borrow money, it's going to be a higher rate. And now the companies will say, well, maybe I'm not going to expand. Or people who want to buy a car, and they said, well, at that car loan rate, I'll hold off. My car I have right now is fine. The money I was going to use as a down payment to buy a new car, I'm going to fix my old one. Same thing with the housing industry. When rates were unbelievably low, you had more buyers in the market, in the pool. All right, as the rates go up, you have a segment of the market who were just in there because the rates were low. And they said, that's a good deal. I could buy a larger house or buy a house with a pool. But now when it's higher, they said, well, I'll live with what I have. It's not such a bad house. I'll get it fixed up. Maybe I could put in an in-ground pool, and they will make the change to this home. But you have a certain segment of that buyers pool who really need to purchase, okay? So, and let's go down here. So inflation will have a strong influence on where mortgage rates go in the months ahead. Whenever inflation finally starts to ease up, so with mortgage rates, all right, so hopefully then the Federal Reserve lowers the Fed funds rate. But even then, home prices are still subject to demand and very tight supply. So simple economics 101, when you have a strong demand and little supply or inventory, housing inventory, your home prices will remain high. So no one knows how long it will take to bring down inflation. And that means the future trajectory of mortgage rates is also unclear. While that uncertainty is uncomfortable, here's why both inflation and mortgage rates are important for you and your home ownership plans. When you buy a home, the mortgage rate and the price of the home matter. Higher mortgage rates impact how much you pay, for your monthly mortgage payment. And that directly affects how much you can comfortably afford. And while there's no denying it's more expensive to buy and finance a home this year than it was last year, it doesn't mean you should pause your search. And here's why. Home ownership is still historically a great hedge against inflation. In an inflationary economy, prices rise across the board. Historically, home ownership is a great hedge against those rising costs because you can lock in what likely will be your largest monthly payment, your mortgage, for the duration of the loan. That still helps stabilize some of your monthly expenses. Not to mention, as home prices continue to appreciate, your home's value will too. So, what they're saying here, if you're a homeowner and you have a fixed rate mortgage, that monthly payment will stay the same even if the mortgage rates go up higher, even if we have more inflation. That's not going to change. What might change a little bit, if your home value goes up a lot, you might have to pay a little bit more in taxes. All right, but it's not like, I hear these horror stories of people who have rentals, and they were paying like $1,200, and now they get a letter from their landlord saying that it's going to be like $3,000 the next month. So by having your own home, you're protected from that. The only time you may have an issue being a homeowner if you got an adjustable rate mortgage, where the mortgage rates will go up after a time. Now there's a cap, all right, and then will go. So if you got that 2%, they might say 8% is the cap, but they'll be all stated out. They can't go higher than that. But that's only where you may have some difficulty with paying your monthly mortgage. But if you get a fixed rate, you're not going to have that issue. So what they're saying, no matter what, even though there'll be a slower price growth each year, okay, again, remember last year was about 18%, but we're unlikely to have any declines in home prices. So you're building up equity, right, which is good. Equity is your full ownership in the house. You could always borrow against that if you need to do some repairs on your house, make an addition to your house, all right? It's a good thing to have. And of course, if you sell it, you'll make a bigger profit. And when you buy your next house, you could perhaps get a bigger house because of having a larger down payment now that you could make on your next purchase, which will bring down the monthly mortgage. Okay. And so it's good to have that equity. It's good to have that protection. I saw, just going through Facebook this afternoon, I didn't have a chance to load it down, but it was from that financial consultant Ramsey, where he said, don't let the inflation and the mortgage rates keep you from buying right now, because as we are seeing it, home prices will still go up. So you're still getting that hedge against inflation. You're still building up equity. And the other thing, what he says, even a chance that mortgage rates go down, you could still refinance it at a lower rate, okay? But you will still have that built-in equity. That's excellent. That's so true. Next week, I'm going to find the meme and probably post it on the next podcast. So I wanted to bring in this article because, in my preview, I had all this negative stuff. One industry that's hurting is the new homes that are being built. Because what's happening, you go into a contract with new construction, but your mortgage is not starting yet because you don't have a house, right? That's collateral. It has to be built. And sometimes these homes could take 4 to 6 months to be built. We know, like within the last 6 months, mortgage rates went from below 3%, like 2.85, and now they're approaching 6%, and that's a big difference. And what's happening, those buyers who were in contract for these houses maybe 6 or 7 months ago, when rates were lower, they were eligible for that loan. But now, as rates going up, they can no longer afford the house. They've been knocked out of the ballpark. So many of these deals for new homes being canceled, or contracts being falling through because of the increase in the mortgage rates. Now, in return, some of these builders are offering a lot of incentives to offset that price going up. But it is a situation that has to be worked out within the new home industry. Like here, at the end of the third quarter, 56,400 homes in inventory, up 19% from a year ago. For sellers, that's not good news, all right? Okay, you don't want to have that many homes in inventory, right? Because they're not selling. You really want to have a smaller inventory. So that increase is not a good thing, all right? So the brand new home industry is really hurting because of the increase in the mortgage rates, okay? What they might offer you, I'm assuming they'll offer to pay your closing costs. Maybe they'll pay for your home inspection or the appraisal. Maybe save you some money that way. That's some of the incentives that they can do to offset those increases where people were knocked out. Will they lower the price of the home? I don't know. It depends on the cost, how much they laid out. When I say they, I mean the sellers. I don't know if that would always be the situation, but incentives like paying closing costs, maybe paying your appraisal or your home inspection, will be some helpful items. Okay. All right. I'm going to show a fast little film on how people are combating or what's happening as these mortgage rates go up. It's actually helping buyers in let's say, in an indirect way. So So two big things out of that video is that with the higher rates, and as I mentioned before, some buyers are now jumping out of the market because they really don't have to purchase. It's not mandatory. They would purchase if they could get a great price, but they don't have to. So right now there's less competition. There's still, the demand, I don't want you to think you're not going to have multiple offers. It's not going to be as crazy as it was about a year ago with about 12 to 14 offers per house. Now you might have about 2 or 3. So there's less competition. And sellers are realizing now that the wonderful time of basically people offering tens of thousands of dollars more than the asking price, that's sort of all over right now. Those large amounts, let's put it that way. So that's helpful for the buyers because of the higher mortgage rate. So you got to balance it out, really, with every bad thing, you could look for a good side to it. And that's what we do in real estate. And that's what I try to do as your agent, whether I'm representing you as a buyer or as a seller. And wherever you're seeing my broadcast, you could contact me with any questions, or if you want me to show you properties or list your home, I will be very helpful to do that. Now, what I'm going to also offer you, okay, free of charge, no charge. You go to my website. This is actually my blog, and you go to resource materials, and you could download the things to consider when buying a home, the summer 2022 edition. These come out 4 times a year, so they're very updated and with the trends that are going on with the real estate industry. And there's also a seller edition, things to consider when selling your house. And you go to my blog, and you click on it, and you download it, and there's no charge. So you read it, and then you say, okay, I understand, but let me get Mr. G to help me buy a house or help me sell a house, okay? And that's how we do it. And here's my, you can register also on my website down here, realestatewithmrg.com, and view all homes in the Hampton Roads area, okay? So I'm hearing from our producer, William Burgess, that I think we had this guest before, but we have a special guest in the audience. Is that true, William?
Chris, great news. You have a famous celebrity in the audience which you have worked with in the past. In her TV series, she was a smart and fearless collie, performing a series of heroic tasks for her human owners and friends. For the first several years of the series, she lived on family farms before moving on to work with forest rangers in the wilderness and ultimately settling in at Holden Ranch, a ranch for troubled children. Ladies and gentlemen, Lassie.
That's not right. Why is Lassie showing her credits on my show? I don't think that really stinks. I don't think that's good. That's Lassie. Oh, now it's okay. All right. Okay, I'm back. All right, it was nice that Lassie stopped by, but showing her credits, I'm a little upset about that. But anyway, we'll see you next week. Remember, if you haven't gotten your boosters, please do that. Please get vaccinated. Be kind to each other. And the greatest power we have is love. And the greatest gift, each other. So I'll see you next week.